So just to jump in, so you're actually grading your ICP based on likelihood to retain within from
Yeah,
what you've learnt before.
yeah.
How do you do that? I'm here with Sam O'Brien, VP of Marketing at Dealfront. Sam, pretty much a friend of the show because we've worked together a lot before. We know each other fairly well. But I just wanted to hand over to you first and foremost for everyone else to introduce yourself, give them a bit of an insight into you, and give us a bit of an overview of Dealfront and the great work that's happening there.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. I think we've worked together for about 7 years now, actually.
I think so, yeah.
Uh, fair amount of company, so that's good. Yes, I'm O'Brien. I've been in marketing for nearly 20 years now, so it's gone quite quick. Quite a lot of different versions of that, but predominantly now in SaaS for the last 10 years, nearly, give or take. So, yeah, a lot of SaaS experience. I think seen a lot of change in those 10 years as well. So, definitely something we can talk about. Dealfront, Dealfront's a combination of two companies. They came together to merge. So, one part we had Leadfeeder. They were known as the website visitor identification platform. And then we had EchoBot, which was a German company based on data. And last year, the two companies merged to form a bigger offering. So now we've kind of got the full funnel. We can identify who's coming to your website, but we can also give you data on like news events, trigger events, everything that's happening in the industry, and basically enable you to either do really targeted marketing or outreach to those prospects with intent and good context, which is what we always talk about. So not mass spam, but actually reaching out to people at the right time when they are looking for a solution.
Yeah, great. Yeah, it's a really good summary, and it's a fantastic tool, not just for what it can do for your sort of end-to-end marketing campaigns, but really easy to use, really intuitive, and a huge data set, right? Was it how's that journey been, kind of collecting that and building the brand out in order to be an established source for that amount of data?
It's challenging for sure. So first of all, I've used like providers like this a lot in the past, and I never realized how complex data is, and
Mm,
it's definitely not something that I'm an expert on still now. The We deal with a lot of competitors who are collecting their data through like email signatures and methods which we don't align on. So we're very GDPR focused. So our data is built from the public directories,
mm,
meaning that it's all sourced ethically, and you can go back through our data and actually find where we found the information
mm.
versus it being sourced through like community data, which is what a lot of our competitors do. But yeah, huge effort for the company, and it's been ongoing now for, as I say, 10 years.
Mm. Yeah, I think that credibility is so important, right? I mean, now more than ever, inboxes are just saturated, and we have more access to more data. We have more ways of automating outbound campaigns and personalizing them. So how do you fit into that world, given how important outbound campaigns are, and in my opinion, always will be, despite the form they might change? How do you know, market yourself in that world, being clean data, but helping with the overall marketing funnel and not being part of this sort of spammy contingent that is a thing.
Yeah, that is the challenge, and it's actually quite hard to convince people otherwise because what you're seeing is people are buying these large data sets, and like I've read things on the internet now where people are sending out 5,000 emails per week, right? So 5,000 spam cannon emails are going out per week to prospects. The challenge is they are getting results, but the results are fractional because for the amount that they're sending. So if you look at the conversion rates, it's really bad. I think I calculated one of them was like 0.09% conversion rate on their emails. What we're teaching people and trying to educate people on is you should be doing less but more targeted. And I think like where we're seeing success, if you use the right data, you find the people that are actually showing intent and are in that buying process, and you reach out to them with something which is personalized by a human. And yes, you can use AI in there, but have that extra human layer to make sure it is truly personalized. Then your conversion rates go go a lot higher. And I mean, I think we've got customers in the 12-15% conversion rate. So when you do the maths of sending out 5,000 emails and getting 0 point something percent versus sending out 50 emails with a 15% conversion rate, your results are a lot better, and you haven't pissed off the market.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And we're always saying that as SEOs, it's about the quality of content. It's about targeting your audience. I mean, we would
Yeah.
obviously it's not personalized as an outbound campaign, is because you're still reaching out to a lot more people with SEO. But talk us through then a little bit about, for those SaaS brands that will be using your software, a SaaS for SaaSes. Um, what does good look like? What sort of good conversion rates to be going for nowadays, given how competitive inboxes are?
Yeah, I would say the 15% are very, very top. For me, it depends on your motion. So some people are going to go pure outbound, and they're using this only as email and trying to reach out to people, and they'll layer in social selling and all those good things. I think if you're doing that right and actually getting in front of a customer and 15% of them, or in front of a prospect, and 15% of them ending up on a demo call and going through your normal sales process, is very good. The other thing which we do is we approach it from both ends. So we also have the marketing team taking the list of data, and then we'll run ABM to them. We actually start quite broad, and then we'll narrow down into more specific ABM on those target accounts. But that then means that by the time we're outreaching to people, they've already got an understanding of who we are because they've been in our marketing. So actually, our conversion rates start going up and up because we're continuously building the awareness at that bottom stage. So at the point that we're reaching out to them, and again, we're doing it with more personalized and relevant content, people are converting very well.
Yeah, no, I understand. Makes a lot of sense. And in terms of that being one piece of then the overall marketing picture, you know, as a SaaS trying to market yourself, what are the channels you're focusing on right now? Is it that, sort of big LBM, big outbound campaigns complemented by ABM while you're sort of doing awareness campaigns? What channels are you using and what channels aren't you using?
Ooh, which ones aren't we using? That's going to be the that's the question. No, I think it's there's a few angles of this. So we start very broad, like how can we get eyeballs? So those channels we're using are like we'll use Meta for instance there because we know we can reach people, we can get in front of them, and if we can obviously being having lead feeder, if somebody comes to our website, we're able to identify what company they are and if they match our ICP. So there's great value in us bringing people to the website. It helps us with our marketing going on. So we're using channels like that. Obviously have a big SEO play. I think from not just brand awareness of getting out there and being very top of funnel, but also then getting those more bottom of funnel pieces of content as well. PPC is always around. AdWords. It's one which I can't see us ever fully getting away from, but definitely something which we're trying to reduce how much we rely on it. And then more recently, we've moved into like a lot more on LinkedIn and really testing on LinkedIn, and then that works so well with the BDR motion, and again going more into that targeted marketing where we've got a very defined list that we're going after.
But it's a very broad approach at the top of the funnel,
Yeah,
and then as soon as it gets lower, that's when you get really targeted, really personal, really ABM focused. And I guess at that point, then you can keep recycling people from that awareness phase, right? And I think people focus on different elements of the funnel, but rightly so, in my opinion, you're considering it constantly, always looking at that. I think, businesses go in their phases for whatever they need for whether it's a bottom line project or whether they're looking to IPO or cut revenue and then focus on different areas. But I agree with you, it's holistic all the time, right? Because the business needs to keep perpetuating.
yeah, and I think again, if you're doing it right, then you're just continuously feeding the bottom of the funnel, and you start to identify those people that are coming in, and then you move them into the more targeted campaigns. Instead of doing it the opposite way, where you create this list and you instantly try and do a targeted campaign, it becomes harder, right? It's going to take you longer. What we're doing is, because we're starting broad, and when I say broad, like we've got a campaign with 20,000 companies in it, and this is the very broad-based marketing. We think we can reach these people for a low cost. As they come to the website, we start measuring their intent, looking into their data, news events, trigger events like financial records. Do they match our ICP? What technology have we got on the website? Anything that we can find to qualify them further. And they're the ones that we then pick out and we go, okay, you go into an ABM campaign because clearly you're a good fit for us and you're showing the right signals. So then our ABM campaigns become more efficient.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. You talk a lot about efficiency, and I've heard you speak recently talking on the SaaS marketing topic where people are moving away from that sort of growth at all costs. I know it's not true for every SaaS because a lot of SaaSes are very niche, relevant to specific industries. But typically, a lot of the B2B, more generally focused SaaSes that are focusing on a size, maybe like an enterprise company, it is that like push, 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 convert everyone all the time at all costs. But you're sort of, engineering moving away a little bit from that now, right?
Yeah, definitely. This year, 100%, really focused on efficiency. I think there's a few factors here. One, private equity companies are valuing companies based on EBITDA. So, the more efficient you are, the better your valuation is going to be. Whereas previously it was valued purely on revenue. And people didn't really look at how much it cost you to get that revenue. It's just how much you've got. So that's one side of it. I think the other side is we are talking a lot about sell to retain. We're trying to sell to customers that we believe are going to be with us for 3, 5, 10 years time, still getting value out of the product. Whereas when you go down the growth at all cost routes, as you say, you're really selling to anyone who picks up the phone. And what companies have seen and what's happening in SaaS a lot this year is just churn rates are going through the roof. So then you're in this cycle of like, we've got to outsell our churn, otherwise we're not growing. You focus more on the growth at all costs, and it just becomes a really, really hard cycle to get out of. So yeah, that's something I've definitely seen and something we're very conscious of now to pick our efficient channels.
Yeah, we've spoken to a couple of people in this series, and there's a theme here because you're talking about efficiency, but it's in line with what other people have touched upon in terms of retention. We're at a difficult phase at the moment right now where I think it's naturally, especially for SaaSes, it's a higher churn market at the moment because of everything that's going on in the world, the challenges that people have got, with economies in general, and therefore how that trickles down to marketing budgets. So you look at your tool stack, you look at your agencies, you look at that where you can before you have to look at headcount, right, if you are struggling. So you do see that higher churn in SaaS. So given that emphasis then on efficiency and retention, what are the sort of things you're doing to improve efficiency and focus on retention as well at the moment?
Yeah, the long term play, because it takes time to change the composition of who's come into your website, but the long term play is to attract those right profiles. So we called it Project Hitch in Dealfront, and based on the Will Smith film, it was about finding your ideal partner. And our project, we've defined 3 categories of profiles. So our grey, which are the customers we don't want, they're not the profiles that we'll retain. And then we have yellow that retain, but not as high as the next profile, which is blue. And they're the customers we really want. We know that we're going to retain them. So part of our targeting is based retention up. Like we've looked at who we're retaining, who's getting value out of the product, and that's now feeding into marketing as to who we're going to target going forward, where we're going to focus our efforts.
So just jump in, so you're actually grading your ICP based on likelihood to retain from
Yeah,
what you've learnt before. How do
yeah.
you do that?
In truth, I've never seen this before.
Yeah.
We have, because we've got access, both companies were running for 10 years prior to the merger. So we've got 10 years of data to understand the profile of person that is retaining and isn't retaining.
Mm.
Plus, at the same time, we've obviously got the data sets. So there's things that we can layer on, which are a little bit more firmographic than others may be able to. So we're in a fortunate position to create a decent picture of what a retaining customer looks like.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant. It sounds so simple, but yeah, something I hadn't really thought about in too much detail because everyone focuses on growth at all costs, get them in, nurture them when they're there, and you don't hear so much of actually how we influencing, our prospecting by not just qualification, but by within that realm, who of that profile is actually likely to stay longer. How do you grade those characteristics, and yeah, how do you get to grading someone on a high retention likelihood?
Based on the profiles we have, based on how much they've interacted with the product, obviously whether or not that subset has renewed, as what's the renewal rate for that subset of profiles, and then a lot of just insights from the customers who have said they have had value, customers who are leaving good reviews, customers that are growing, right? That's always a good sign that you're going to retain them if they're also asking you for more business. So we look at it from that lens. And then, as I say, it's really been a case of just a data exercise to find as much insights as we can. And to, our blue segment isn't one vertical, it's a combination of verticals that we're going after, a combination of employee ranges and everything like that. So within that segment, we'll then segment it further and we'll have vertical plays or employee count plays or whatever size, however we want to split it. But the overarching piece is we're able to find these are the ones that are retaining at a high rate.
No, that's why I love for SaaS marketing that data driven approach because with with SaaS it's a numbers game, it's a subscription model. You need to get as many people as you can using that software. So because you have such a typically a wide pool of prospects, like I said earlier, some SaaSes will be smaller than others based on industry specific focuses. But it's always a broad pool for the most part, if you're providing that SaaS. So data is just crucial because there are so many different conflicting campaigns you can create, and I think that's kind of where Dealfront comes in, really, isn't it? That's how you get to those specific campaigns without conflicting with others, right?
Yeah, exactly that. And what we're building towards in our own marketing, and then what we're educating other people on doing, is being super targeted. Again, start broad at the top, but really know who's coming to your website. And when you think about what we're able to do, you can identify that company on the website. So what you do with that person once they're on the website, it varies. If we know they're an SMB, we've got a PLG funnel, so we push them into PLG. If they're an enterprise customer, we don't want them to go self-service. We want to make sure we're looking after them and we're giving them information they need. So all the routing changes. And the end state of where we're trying to get to is we'll start dynamically updating the website, and the journeys on the website will become different depending on the profile of person visiting the site.
Wow, brilliant. That is some serious personalization, isn't it? Being able to actually tailor the journeys live. I mean, the SEO in me wants to know how does that impact page speed and the experience there and how it's crawled. But I mean, I don't know if that's a bit too complex for this
I don't
this
know about
time.
the crawl side of things because I think it just crawls the. I mean, I'm probably going to be wrong here. I believe it just crawls the base site because the other part is just a JS script put in
Yeah.
there. So I don't think that will be crawled. Page speeds are right though because again, it's not too much of a load.
Mm. Yeah, I think it's different when you're doing it further down like the user journey, but where it gives SEOs like me a headache when we're playing around with landing pages and dynamic landing page copy and simultaneously trying to rank it. But it's
Yeah,
a really good challenge. No, I hear what you're saying though. It's like a huge level of personalization, but at scale, isn't it?
yeah,
That's what you're able to do at the moment with the data you have, which is incredibly difficult to manage, but sounds like it's going very successfully.
yeah. It's what are we in 2024? 2026 Gartner predicted that everyone will stop personalization. That was their prediction. They're so wrong because they made that prediction before they knew the enhancements in the tools, and what you can do now with AI is incredible. And some of the companies out there that are standing up some of these AI tools where is using like our APIs and data sets like ours to pull in information to create these personalizations on web pages and in campaigns. And I think personalization is going to get further. The challenge that people face is just realizing that there still needs to be a human element. Like, don't let the bots do everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I think the challenge with personalization is how to use it, because I think people frequently get it wrong, and I'm speaking on someone who gets sold to a lot, in my inbox. And I think people think personalization is that it's like making it more personal. But without calling a spade too bluntly, it's just creepy. And with AI, you can get so personal. Oh, I saw you do on this podcast, I saw you do the X, Y, Z, and it builds this picture of you. And I think people, because if they know what they can do, they forget to actually empathize with the human bit to go, would actually be want to approach them that way? The answer typically no. So in that case, how can you use personalization to your advantage? Well, not to make it personalization, but to make it specific to like the goals and objectives. So if we do outbound campaigns, we're not there trying to build a massive rapport and everything that this individual we're trying to, speak to, because it's not about that. You've got a second in their inbox. So when we personalize, we're thinking, well, what are these guys' pain points? So we will examine their whole SEO journey using tools and think we can actually now, through our personalization, build a picture of what you've done from a marketing perspective to get a good understanding of what's worked for you. So rather than pitching our agenda to go, we can do link audits, we can do content at scale, we can do this, we're like, we see that you've clearly done a great job SEO, if we can see a graph going up, but then if we can see it plateau, and then if we can see that the keywords they're ranking for aren't intersecting with the competitors, that's us then thinking, well, okay, this individual's challenge is doing it well at scale because they know what they're doing, and when it works, it works. But now they don't have the resource maybe to continue that at the scale they need to. Fine. So using that level of personalization, we've actually understood a pain point, which allows us to engineer a conversation that will add value to the person rather than just trying to broker a meaningless connection, to beg them to engage with you, right?
100%. And I think that's the thing. You can use tools to make that process easier, but if you just put
Mm,
that into AI, the outreach is
yeah.
going to be, I don't know, use us and we'll help you grow. It's going to be very, very
Mm.
generic
Or
in what it's
or it'll make the
reaching
wrong
out.
assumptions, right?
Yeah, or it
Yeah.
makes wrong assumptions. Yeah, and I shouldn't say this, but we actually have a Slack channel at work called Random Spam Cannon, and it's like we all share the random stuff that gets reached out, and some of it,
Mm,
it's like we'll have the same company reach out 3 times with exactly the same message, and
mm,
there's like pictures of people's inboxes where they've had 3 different people with exactly the same message coming from the same company,
mm,
all receiving that message at the same time, and it just doesn't work. It hurts your brand,
mm,
negatively impacts you. So I think the personalization's gonna really move forward.
mm,
Where I think you'll see the difference is the companies that take that time to collect the data. Yes, using AI to help them, but they're
mm.
like collecting the data as you're saying you're doing, and then reaching out in a much more contextual way.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Completely agree. And I love what did you call it? The random spam cannon.
Yeah,
That sounds like a podcast or an interview series in itself. We should do a
yeah,
podcast on that. The
yeah.
amount of, like highlighting the fails of outbound campaigns. Yeah, I
The,
could talk about
the
that
the
all day.
worst thing is it's the most popular Slack channel.
Yeah.
Because there's that much
But
going on.
but what does that say? It says that outbound is done badly more often than it's done well. So when people talk about it's saturated, yeah. So what's the opposite? Rather than thinking it's saturated, there's not an opportunity to do outbound. There's a huge opportunity to do it well. I think people just kind of aren't seeing the tools for that.
I always give this example. I had an SDR land in my inbox years ago, probably like 5 years ago, and he was very targeted. He knew our problems. He knew actually because he'd done his research. He'd read like reports. We'd put out news in Gartner. It was very clear what we were trying to do, and he was able to come to me and say, "I know you're doing X, Y, Z. I can help." Now his timing was off. The solution wasn't right, but then I stayed in touch with him. And like 9 months later, I had a need. I've remembered him because he didn't bug me. He reached out in a very good way. And I, re-engaged on that conversation, and hey presto, we ended up buying his solution. So I think that's the thing as well, is it's just understanding that actually finding the right person at the right time is challenging. And sometimes you might miss it by a month. But don't burn your bridges by them just spamming them for the next 6 months. Like, build that relationship, take a little bit of time to get the rapport, and people do come back in.
Yeah, yeah, and it speaks to what you were saying earlier about quality over quantity. And I do think that's helped if, like I said, you have a large prospect pool because you can bank that and move on to the next one. You can almost see the size of a prospect pool by how desperate they are to reach out to you. Either that or how poorly their business is performing, yeah, I think that's a good point though, isn't it? It's like keeping those relationships so you can nurture them. But I mean, it's a bit sad that we even have to point that out, right? That stuff should go without saying, but there's so much bad marketing. I probably shouldn't say that as a marketer, but there is.
It's true though. I think, if you go back to the old school, it's like people bought from people. And we
Mm,
seem to assume that that's not the case anymore, but it still very much is. That I mean, I saw something the other day talking about AI, and it said the first rule of AI is be a good human first. And
mm,
like, yes, use it, but make sure you're being a good human in how you use it, and you're not trying to just like mass outreach or do something like that. So I think, as you say, we've kind of forgotten that people do buy from people, and having that personal connection is definitely more important.
yeah, no, I totally agree. Um, okay, brilliant. Well, I mean, I really appreciate the time. I don't want to take up too much more of it. I would like to ask one more question, just get a good sense of this, and just trying to get a good round sense from everyone, really. Well, it's kind of two questions. What's if we do like desert island discs, but for your tool stack. So what's the the software, the SaaS, the tool you can't live without, and what's the specific AI tool you're excited about right now? If I can ask those two, might be the same.
Um, Paul, I'm going to be really boring. I can't live without Google Sheets. Like, I know that's not a tool. Well, it is a tool. And I know it's not the expectation everyone says. And you could argue that I need to get the data from somewhere. But for me, I've said this on other podcasts, like, I, I kind of live in there. All my forecasting's in there. If I'm analyzing something, it's in there. And yes, I have Tableau and I've got GA4 and I've got other data sources, but I do like being able to pull things in when I'm forecasting where marketing's going. That is a tool which I'm in. If I looked at what tool I'm in the most, it's probably Sheets. Um, if I was trying to be a little bit more exciting, and not picking our own tools, because that's not great. Yeah. Um, God, that's a really hard question.
Should have given you some prep. I think the Google Sheets one is a fair one, and I think when I think about Google Sheets, so I'm not I'm the same as you. I think you can do data viz, you can build any reports you really want if you're kind of good enough with it. And that's one of my favorite things to do on AI. It's at the moment, which is really sad. It's actually asking it for specific formulas to get the information
Yeah.
because I don't then need necessarily Power BI and all of these other. I mean, I'm not doing them a disservice. They're needed when they're needed. Don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
but like you, for what I need, I can go in and I can ask. I can ask ChatGPT those questions, build the formulas up. There's some of the formulas it comes out with I never would have been able to build in a million years.
Yeah.
And my top tip for that, if for what it's worth, is a hack I've learned for building these formulas or anything really in ChatGPT is quite a long time. It will take a long time to get to that answer, and I always at the end of it say, what prompt could I have given? What could I have asked you to get to this much sooner?
That's a good
And it
idea.
sort of fights you for a bit. It will say, "Oh well, it will always be different." And I say specifically, what prompt could you really push it, and it spits out a prompt. And then I started a new chat and put that in. And it got to the
Does it
same
straight
answer
away.
that it took me about an hour to get to before. So yeah, that's definitely a good hack.
I heard the other day that you can bribe ChatGPT. Apparently, if you tell it, I'll give you $100 to make this a better answer. it will take the time and actually make it a better answer. I think on the AI front, it's I think we're using it a lot more to just automate things and make things easier for ourselves. Honestly, I'm just excited with where ChatGPT is going as a product I can get access to, so easily. What is it, like €20 a month still or something, or $20? Hardly anything. So I think I don't even think we've started to scratch the surface of what we can do. And I'm seeing these like setups now where people have their team structures and they have a layer of like AI bots underneath it doing very specific things. So I can really see that happening in the next like couple of years for people and actually bringing almost thinking of this little bot as it's the content team's helper or it's the analyst helper or whatever it is, and it's just someone that we can use to free up our time and let us be more creative.
Yeah, I think that'll be much more commonplace. Instead of VAs, there'll be individual department bots. You're right. Yeah, I think I don't disagree. Well, listen, thank you so much, Sam, for joining us. I really appreciate it. It was great to hear more about Dealfront. Great to hear more about what you're doing with marketing, in the SaaS world at the moment. I've definitely learned a load there that we could take away as well. So yeah, really helpful. Really enjoyed it.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Paul.